Leaders who can anticipate their team's needs are in a much better position to manage team resistance and transform that resistance into an opportunity for growth. Today, I'm going to show you how you can anticipate resistance and reframe that resistance into positive energy that drives you and your team forward. Let's dive in. Every leader knows that change, even the most necessary and strategic, comes with resistance. But here's the truth. Resistance from your team isn't always bad. When handled properly, it can be one of the most powerful signals for what your team needs to feel secure, motivated, and aligned with your vision. Your ability to anticipate and address this resistance head on separates the great leaders from others. The key is being proactive rather than reactive. It's about understanding so you can turn their resistance into momentum. See, resistance isn't random. It often stems from fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of failure. Are any of your employees worried about how a specific change will impact their roles? Are they feeling overwhelmed by the demands or expectations, or do they simply feel out of the loop? Behind every form of resistance is a need. It's your job to uncover and address that need before it becomes a problem. Here's what you can do. First, try to engage them in one-on-one conversations. Check in on how they're feeling. Ask open-ended questions like, what concerns you most about the upcoming change? Or what could make you feel more confident as we move forward? These types of dialogues and conversations will provide critical insights into any potential issues. Next, reframe resistance as feedback. Here's a mindset shift for you. Instead of seeing resistance as a roadblock or an issue, view it as valuable feedback. See, your team's hesitation about something often reflects what needs more clarity, support, or alignment. This feedback, in my opinion, is pure gold for you as a leader because it highlights areas where you can refine your approach and strengthen your strategy. When your team pushes back, don't shut them down. Instead, listen actively and ask questions to uncover the true underlying concern. What are they really trying to tell you? What's stopping them from embracing the change? What support or resources are they missing? When you begin to view resistance as feedback, everything changes. You begin to foster an environment where your team feels heard and valued. Next, take the handcuffs off. Like I said before, one of the biggest reasons for resistance is fear of failure. Teams often hold back. They doubt themselves or they get stuck in analysis paralysis because they're afraid of making a mistake. This fear leads to hesitation, which slows progress, or worse yet, stops everything altogether. As a leader, you need to break the logjam of indecision. Encourage your team to stop worrying about making a mistake and instead focus on taking action. One of the simplest ways to do this is by teaching them to ask, what's the worst thing that could happen? One of my favorite questions. Seriously, break it down. Most of the time, the worst case scenario isn't nearly as severe as we want to imagine it to be, or we like to imagine it to be. Next, challenge your team to offer multiple solutions. Resistance often comes when people feel boxed in or with limited options. If your team feels like there's only one path forward and they're not convinced that that path is right, hesitation naturally follows. So here's how you flip the table. Challenge your team to come up with multiple options forward. Ask them, hey, if you were king or queen for today, what would you do and why? See, I love that question because it encourages them to think creatively and it develops different scenarios, each with its own logic. And the magic here is that you're empowering your team to begin to think critically and take ownership of their solutions. When you ask them to defend their logic, they become more invested in the outcome. This breaks down resistance and drives alignment fast. Lastly, give your team the freedom to experiment. I talk about this a lot. See, employee resistance often comes from feeling constrained or stuck in rigid processes. When people believe they have little room to explore new ideas or try different approaches, you know what happens? Their engagement drops, and with it, their resistance begins to grow. I say that because if your team doesn't have the freedom to think outside the box, you haven't really given them the freedom to experiment. When I talk about this, people often misinterpret it. They have this false belief that the freedom to experiment endorses mistakes. Trust me, making a mistake is never the problem. It's what you do afterward that really counts. As a leader, you need to create an environment that encourages experimentation. In my opinion, experimentation inspires problem solving and innovation. Nothing in this world was ever created right the first time. So you got to give your team the freedom to explore different approaches, which increases their engagement and, oh, by the way, turns their resistance into curiosity. Here's the truth. Resistance isn't something to avoid. It's something to learn from and leverage. Approaching employee resistance with a level of leadership curiosity can spark team creativity, ownership, and alignment simply because you took the time to understand what matters most to others and authentically help them overcome whatever real or perceived obstacles stand in their way. If you found these tips today I shared valuable, I invite you to join our leadership community. Not only will I personally guide you, but you'll be surrounded by like-minded leaders just like yourself who share the same leadership challenges. Follow the link in the description if you're interested. If you want to explore how we can potentially help you elevate your leadership team and develop growth champions throughout your business who can help you get out of the weeds and scale, I also included the link in the description to book an exploratory call. And together we can brainstorm what that could look like for you and your team. Okay, if you like what I shared today, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment below related to your business, and of course subscribe, because each week I'm sharing content to help you and your team embrace change, focus your efforts, and accelerate results. Remember this, you're just one idea away. We'll talk to you soon.